In August 2019, Juan's strange and even boring life crossed paths with the life of a sweet and cheerful 20-year-old girl named Marbella Valdes Villarreal, whom her loved ones called Bella. A difficult but blessed life. Marbella had a difficult start in life. The exact details of her birth and parents are unknown, but it is known for certain that the girl was sent to an orphanage at the age of 5, and she spent the next years in such institutions. Some versions claim that she was left an orphan and therefore sent to an orphanage for children without families. According to the recollections of local pastor David Lopez, who was present when she was admitted to the center, from the very beginning, she demonstrated her good-natured character and friendliness, which helped her earn the love and respect of the other children and staff. Despite her difficulties, her story did not seem to be too sad. Along the way, she met friends such as Brenda Valdes and Jairo Solano. Brenda became close to her. Pastor David noted that they were often seen playing together and always near each other in various activities, which demonstrated their bond of love, support, and protection. In this way, Brenda took on the role of an older sister who would always be there for her. As time passed, Marbella began to build her dreams of a better future and successfully completed elementary and middle school. She was considered a good student and was also active in youth religious groups. Realizing that the way to progress was through study and labor, she began selling sweets among her schoolmates at the age of 16, and even performed cleaning jobs in homes. Fortunately, she was not alone on this path to success. For a while, she and Brenda were supported by a man named William Misick, an American information technology executive from San Diego, California. In 2014, William created a self-funded program to help orphans from orphanages in Tijuana, Mexico. His idea was to offer them support at one of the most vulnerable moments of their lives, when they reached adulthood and left the protection system. According to testimonials, William knew what this life was like because he himself had been orphaned at a young age. He wanted to give these children the opportunities he felt their parents wanted to give them. So his project involved managing scholarship funds and microfinance programs. This is how William met Brenda, and soon they were almost like father and daughter. She told him about Marbella, her sister from the orphanage, and soon he included her in his program designed to complete her studies. With that support, Marbella graduated from high school in 2018. After obtaining a higher education, she decided to continue her studies at the Autonomous University of Baja California. She dreamed of becoming a lawyer and especially wanted to work with the defense of children's rights. Having reached adulthood, both girls were supported by William to rent an apartment. After some time, Marbella expressed her desire to live on her own, and William again supported her, recognizing the seriousness and responsibility she demonstrated. By then, in addition to beginning her university studies, she had decided to get a job to help support herself and begin the journey to independence. With the help of her benefactor, she even purchased a car so that she could travel quickly from work to university and return home early for a rest. So she started working at a gas station owned by the Rendicicas Network, a Mexican company with one of its goals to support women. Marbella's workday at the gas station started at 5:30 a.m. and lasted until noon. After lunch, she would head to the university to study law, and despite her busy schedule, found time to attend and participate in church services and activities. It was at the Rendicicas station that Juan and Marbella's paths crossed. One day, the man came to refuel one of his cleaning company's cars and was charmed by a friendly and beautiful girl. From then on, Juan came to the station almost daily to fill up his company's cars and always tried to strike up a conversation with Marbella, who, as with all customers, spoke to him politely and with a smile. Soon he began bringing her gifts, sweets, toys, chocolates, and even once went so far as to bring breakfast for her and the other female employees on the shift. Marbella, considering William her father, told him about Juan with the best of intentions. He cautioned her to be careful, since Juan was much older, but she reassured him by telling him that she had no interest in the man. For a 20-year-old girl, the attention of an older suitor seemed amusing and even flattering. Her co-workers also found the situation funny. Everyone saw Juan as a friendly and respectful man who could not pose a threat to the young girl. In fact, Marbella herself made it clear to Juan that she did not want a romantic relationship with him, and several times declined his invitations to meet. These refusals clearly did not please Juan, and his behavior began to change. He began following Marbella after her shift at the gas station, and soon started showing up everywhere she went. Somehow Juan always knew where Marbella was and would come over to ask her to go with him, to which she always refused. There were even occasions when she thought he had followed her home. She told her colleagues about this strange behavior. The situation took a dramatic turn on Wednesday, February 5, 2020, when Marbella failed to show up for work at the gas station and failed to contact anyone to report or apologize. Although Marbella and Brenda did not live together, they saw each other several times a week. At the time, Brenda had a young son whom Marbella adored and visited often. In any case, the girls communicated daily by phone. Brenda worked the night shift, and almost every morning when she got home, she would talk on the phone with Marbella, who at that time went to work at the gas station. That Wednesday, however, they did not talk. When Brenda woke up around 9 a.m., she found a text message from her saying that her stomach hurt and that she was not going to work but was going to the doctor. Besides worrying about Marbella's health, Brenda was alarmed by the message because it was not written in her usual manner, and it was strange that she had not called if she really felt ill. Brenda tried to contact her friend, but without success. When all attempts failed, she contacted their mutual friends, but no one had any information about Marbella. Everyone started looking for her at hospitals and medical centers in the area, but to no avail. Along with one of her friends, Brenda went to Marbella's house, knocked on the door, rang the bell, but no one answered. As she walked around the house, Brenda noticed an open window. Usually, Marbella left a small slit for her cats to get in and out, but this time the window was wide open. Brenda climbed in through the window and found that everything inside looked as if Marbella had just returned from university. Her books, clothes, bag, and car keys were all there. A group of friends continued to search medical facilities and other locations throughout the day, but without success. According to Brenda, recounted in an interview, toward the end of the day, they went to the police to file a missing persons report. However, because Marbella was an adult, police regulations dictated that they wait 3 days before beginning an official search. Despite these statements provided by the complainant herself, some press sources claimed that the investigation began immediately. However, Brenda and her friends began creating flyers with Marbella's photograph, contact number, and her physical characteristics. Marbella was described as a young girl with brown eyes, long, straight, brownish-red hair, dark skin, slender build, 1 meter 50 centimeters tall, and weighing 48 kilograms. The leaflets were posted and distributed in various places in the city. At the same time, William activated his network of contacts to organize a campaign to find Marbella through social media. Together with Brenda, they even tried to hack into Marbella's phone to find out her location, but this was unsuccessful. In a later interview, Brenda mentioned that even Juan was actively involved in the search, which made his continued behavior even more sinister. 3 days after her disappearance, on February 8th, the police received a call from a man reporting that a woman's body had been found at an illegal dump site in the Colonia Tecolote area. This location was more than 26 kilometers from the house of Marbella, in the south of Tijuana. The location was so remote and unknown that the complainant cited 2 tall power poles as a landmark. It took the police a long time to find this abandoned place, but they finally arrived. In a pile of garbage, they found a large black bag containing the body of a young woman dressed in blue pajamas, with pictures of black puppies and slippers with animal drawings. The body was lying almost face down, her legs bound with yellow cord, and her hands tied behind her back with a pink scarf that was wrapped around her wrists and up along her arms. The body was taken to the morgue for examination. Meanwhile, investigators were collecting evidence at the scene where the body was found. Police contacted Brenda to notify her of the remains found that matched Marbella's description. Immediately, Brenda and William went to the morgue, but upon arrival, they were informed that they would have to wait until the next day to identify the body. Unexpectedly, Juan also appeared on the scene and offered to help them in. He entered the building, and after a short time, he helped them enter the building. Unfortunately, their worst fears were confirmed when they identified Marbella's body. At that moment, Juan did not yet know that Brenda and the victim's friends had already informed the authorities of their suspicions about him and his obsessive passion for Marbella in recent months. Police asked Marbella's loved ones not to take any action that might alert the suspect. They needed to conduct a forensic examination of the body and other investigations to find evidence that could convincingly incriminate the obsessive fan. Additionally, some media outlets pointed out the doubts that arose as to who had the right to demand the release of the body, since the student had no blood relatives. Thorough examinations of Marbella's remains in search of evidence lasted about 5 days. Consequently, mourning began on the evening of February 13, 2020, and continued until Friday, February 14th. To the surprise and outrage of Marbella's loved ones, Juan came to the funeral, bringing flowers, a picture of the girl, and a teddy bear. Several photos taken by photojournalist Omar Martinez for the publication Cuarto Oscuro captured Juan at the wake and funeral of the very girl who was his obsessive crush and who never accepted his advances. The man even wore a t-shirt with an image of the deceased. The girl's friends were simply outraged. It was incredibly difficult to keep silent and tolerate the presence of this man when everyone was sure that he was the one responsible for Marbella's death. However, following the instructions of the authorities, they said and did nothing to alert the suspect for fear that he might flee before enough evidence was gathered to arrest him. However, Jocelyn Ruiz, a friend of Marbella's with whom she had such a strong bond that they called each other cousins, noticed the suspect had scratches on his neck. The man approached the casket several times and threatened her with a knife and offered his car to transport flowers to the cemetery where the girl's remains were to rest. To approach her, to look at her at her funeral, to bring her flowers, to hold her picture, was a display of a complete lack of shame and conscience. Meanwhile, the police were hard at work. Forensic results showed that Marbella's cause of death was asphyxia, as her neck was compressed to the point where it completely cut off her air supply. She was also severely punched in the abdominal area, causing severe damage to her internal organs. While the authorities acted calmly, women's protests took place in the region, drawing renewed attention to the number of victims of femicide. At the door of the University of Baja California, female classmates and students organized an impromptu memorial for Marbella, emphasizing that she was yet another victim of male violence, a serious problem for all of Mexico. The justice mechanism was set in motion. The investigation and interviews with loved ones revealed that a few days before her disappearance, Marbella had mentioned that she could not find the keys to her apartment and car. It turned out that the suspect assured people that he was a federal police officer in Baja California and also claimed to be working as an expert in the state attorney general's office, although it was just a community service internship. In addition, some media outlets reported that the man had a criminal record and had been in prison for a crime involving illegal substances in the state of Sonora. Even more disturbing were the results of the search of the student's car. Experts found a hidden geolocation device in the car, and a later search of Juan's home found several similar devices and satellite detection receivers. Not surprisingly, Juan always knew where Marbella was, but the most convincing evidence was the results of the forensic examination of the body, which revealed fingerprints and seminal fluid that, after DNA analysis, matched the genetic sample of the suspect taken when Juan, as well as many others close to Marbella, were called to testify before the prosecutor's office as part of the investigation. Analysis of the girl's cell phone also revealed that her device and Juan's device were always in the same locations at the time of her disappearance, indicating that he had taken the device to send messages on her behalf. A few days after the funeral, Juan was charged with the murder of Marbella Valdes Villarreal, and on February 22, 2020, he appeared in court for the first time for a preliminary hearing. At that hearing, it was revealed that since the girl's disappearance, The accused had contacted the state attorney general's office several times to inquire about the progress of the investigation and to express his desire that Marbella's death not go unpunished. Authorities argued that Juan had always been the prime suspect in the case, given previous cases of stalking reported by acquaintances of the victim who claimed that the man was obsessed with Marbella, even though he had only known her for 5 months. Since then, he has been under surveillance by law enforcement. According to the investigation, Juan allegedly entered the student's residence and abducted her. The event occurred between February 5 and February 8 at Colonia Psychotech Live Alaman, where Juan lived. At that location, he held his victim, to whom he physically and sexually abused her, inflicting injuries to her face, abdomen, and genitals, resulting in her death. The final conclusion in the death case was that there was a lack of oxygenation in her body, causing her neck to be compressed in such a way that her blood vessels and airways were closed. In addition, she sustained deep abdominal contusions that caused internal organ damage. Additionally, the defendant's genetic profile completely matched the traces of semen and fluids found in the victim's body, as well as in a significant amount of tissue found under the fingernails of Marbella, who was no doubt trying to defend herself with all her might. When cell phone tracking data for the defendant's and the victim's cell phones was presented at the hearing, it was revealed that the two devices had been together since the morning of February 5th, first at Marbella's home, then at the defendant's home, and finally at the site where the body was found. In fact, there was a very important element. The cell phones were also recorded together on February 2nd, the day Marbella reported her house and car keys missing. Eventually, on February 27th, at a linkage hearing held in the Tijuana Supreme Court, Judge Daniel Aguilar Patino determined that there was sufficient evidence to link Juan to the crime of feminicide as the direct perpetrator towards Marbella. The judge emphasized that the defendant chose to deceive everyone about the victim's whereabouts, pretending to be concerned to both her loved ones and her co-workers at the gas station, when in fact he always knew what was going on and what he had done. The man was placed in a detention center in Mesas, but continued to maintain that he was innocent of all charges. The trial that decided his fate took place from September 14th to September 29th, 2022, just over 2 years after the event. A huge amount of forensic evidence was presented during the trial, as well as testimony from people in the victim's inner circle. It became known that in addition to contacting Brenda the morning of her disappearance, a work colleague called after seeing that she had not arrived at the gas station. The girl only had time to say that she wasn't doing well before the connection dropped, and it became impossible to contact Marbella. The girl's friends not only stated what a wonderful person she was, but also told how the suspect annoyed her at work every day and gave her many gifts, which she tried to politely refuse, but he did not stop. Moreover, he persistently followed her to wherever she was, which caused her great anxiety. However, she had never realized that she was in danger, and so she thought it unnecessary to file a formal complaint against Juan. She thought that eventually the man would tire of her refusals. Other witnesses stated that the suspect often posed as a representative of the law, when in fact he was only an intern at the University of Justice. After presenting all the evidence and listening to all the testimonies, Judge Marta Elvia Luna Vargas said she was convinced that the defendant was the perpetrator of the horrible crime that ended the student's life. Addressing the defendant directly, she said that he came to take her life because he watched her to satisfy his basest instincts. Having said this, the judge passed her sentence, sentencing Juan Perez Hernandez to 42 years and 6 months in prison for the murder of Marbella Valdes Villarreal. Despite all that had happened, unfortunately, nothing could be undone in Marbella's case, but her loved ones, especially William, were determined that such events should not happen again. William was a master of martial arts. In fact, because of his discipline, he had earned a black belt in jiu-jitsu. With the support of Brenda and other friends of Marbella, in the months following the incident, he began holding self-defense workshops for women. As William explained, the goal was not for the women to fight in a one-on-one duel with a potential attacker, but rather for them to be able to act in such a way that they could escape their captor in any situation. even with the use of edged or firearms. About 700 women showed up for the first organized classes. Meanwhile, a huge void was left in the hearts of those who knew Marbella by the absence of this young girl. Despite a difficult start in life, she fought to take her place, to move forward, to dream of progress, to help others, and never lost her joy.